Dangerous confidence isn't loud, it's when you stop asking for permission to be who you are. That's when everything changes. This kind of confidence isn't about being perfect, popular, or fearless. It's about knowing your value without needing anyone to approve it. It's about showing up fully without shrinking. It's when you finally stop explaining yourself just to be accepted. Most people walk through life second-guessing, overthinking, holding back. They wait for the right moment. They wait for someone to tell them they're good enough. But the truth is, no one's coming to give you permission. You have to give it to yourself. This audiobook is for the person who's tired of living small, tired of feeling unsure, tired of putting themselves last. You're not here to just survive. You're here to take back your voice, trust your own choices, and finally feel solid in your own skin. That's dangerous confidence, and we're about to build it from the inside out. Chapter 1. Choose to like yourself before the world ever does. You know, one of the greatest discoveries a person can ever make is realizing that confidence doesn't come from being liked by others. It comes from liking yourself first. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for the world to give them permission to feel good about who they are. They wait for someone to say they're talented enough, smart enough, or good-looking enough. But here's the truth. If you wait for others to approve of you, you'll wait forever. Confidence is not something you get handed. It's something you decide to build within yourself. When you wake up in the morning, before you check your phone or look at the mirror, you need to decide who you are going to be today. You can choose to be the person who doubts, compares, and criticizes themselves, or you can choose to be the person who respects themselves even when no one else notices. Liking yourself isn't arrogance, it's self-respect. It's the foundation for everything you'll ever build in life. You can't perform at your best while secretly believing you don't deserve good things. So, start here. Spend some time with yourself. Not in distraction, not scrolling through other people's lives, but in silence. Ask yourself, what do I really like about me? What am I proud of? What qualities have I ignored because I thought they weren't good enough? Most people never do this kind of reflection. They are too busy looking outward, trying to meet someone else's standard of worth. But confidence starts the moment you stop chasing approval and start giving it to yourself. You don't have to be perfect to like yourself. In fact, real confidence comes when you understand that you can have flaws, make mistakes, and still be worthy of respect. Think about that for a moment. Every strong, grounded person you admire has failed, stumbled, and felt insecure, but they learned to stand up and say, "I'm still enough." That's what separates the people who build themselves from those who wait for the world to notice them. Most people tie their self-worth to what they do. They say, "I'll like myself when I lose the weight, when I get the promotion, when I make the money." But that mindset will trap you forever. Because as soon as you reach one goal, the mind creates another condition for feeling enough. Confidence isn't built on achievement, it's built on acceptance. When you can look at yourself exactly as you are today and decide that you are already valuable, that's when everything starts to change. You begin to walk differently. You talk differently. People can feel it, because the person who truly likes themselves doesn't need to prove anything. They don't chase people. They attract them. They don't argue for their worth. They demonstrate it quietly. That's what makes confidence dangerous in the best way. Dangerous because it can't be shaken by opinions or rejection. When you genuinely like who you are, the world can't threaten you with disapproval anymore. You see, there's a difference between arrogance and confidence. Arrogance says, "I'm better than you." Confidence says, "I'm comfortable being me." The second one doesn't need to compete, compare, or boast. It's calm, it's steady, it's powerful. People can sense that energy, and they trust it. Because deep down, we all want to be around someone who is sure of themselves, not in a loud way, but in a peaceful way. Confidence starts with how you talk to yourself. Pay attention to that voice inside your head. Most people have spent years criticizing themselves until it becomes their normal tone. "I'm not good enough. I always mess up. No one cares what I think." That voice becomes the reason they never take risks, never speak up, never show their true potential. You have to challenge that voice. Replace it with one that says, "I'm learning, I'm growing, I deserve my own respect." Because you will never rise above the story you keep repeating to yourself. If you spoke to a friend the way you speak to yourself, would they still want to be around you? That's the test. You spend more time with yourself than anyone else in the world, so you better make that relationship a good one. You can't run from your own thoughts. You live with them day and night, so make them your allies. Feed your mind with words that build you up, not tear you down. When you start liking yourself, everything changes, not because the world gets easier, but because you become stronger. People's opinions don't weigh as much. Criticism doesn't sting as deeply. Failure doesn't feel final anymore. You learn to recover faster, to see setbacks as lessons instead of punishments. That's what liking yourself does. It builds emotional armor. You stop reacting to every negative comment or every bad day. You stay grounded because you trust your own center. But here's the hard part. Liking yourself is a choice you have to make daily. Some days, you'll look in the mirror and feel proud of who you are. Other days, you'll struggle to believe it. That's okay. Confidence isn't a straight line. It's built through repetition, just like a muscle. You strengthen it every time you forgive yourself instead of blaming yourself. Every time you try again instead of giving up. Every time you celebrate progress instead of waiting for perfection. You don't have to be loud or bold to be confident. You just have to be honest with yourself. There is quiet confidence in knowing you can handle what life throws your way. It's not about being fearless, it's about moving forward even when you feel fear. That kind of self-respect doesn't fade when the spotlight turns off. It stays with you in silence, in the moments when no one is watching. That's where the real work happens, when you hold yourself accountable, when you keep promises to yourself, when you decide that your opinion of you matters more than anyone else's. Think about how different your life would look if you stopped waiting for approval. How many ideas would you share? How many relationships would you leave or start? How much energy would you save if you weren't constantly worried about being liked? Most of the stress people carry isn't from reality. It's from trying to please people who don't even think about them that often. You free yourself when you stop playing that game. When you like yourself, you begin to make choices that align with your real values. You start saying no to things that drain you. You stop trying to fit into spaces where you don't belong. You walk away from people who make you feel small. You take care of your health because you respect your body, not because you hate it. You stop competing with others and start focusing on becoming better than you were yesterday. That's self-approval in action. Confidence isn't about pretending to have it all figured out. It's about trusting that you'll figure it out when the time comes. It's believing that you can learn, adapt, and recover. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be real. People are drawn to realness because it's rare. And when you're real with yourself, you stop fearing failure, because you know you'll always have your own back. Here's the truth about human nature. People treat you the way you treat yourself. If you constantly put yourself down, the world will follow your example. If you hold yourself with respect, others will rise to meet that level. That's why liking yourself first is not selfish, it's necessary. You set the standard for how the world interacts with you. You teach others how to value you by the way you value yourself. If you want to build confidence, start with small wins. Wake up and make your bed not because it's a big achievement, but because it builds self-trust. Speak up in one conversation where you'd usually stay quiet. Take care of your appearance in a way that makes you feel good. Read something that expands your thinking. Compliment yourself for trying instead of waiting for someone else to notice. These small actions add up. They become evidence that you can rely on yourself. And when that inner trust grows, something beautiful happens. You stop comparing. You stop competing. You stop chasing. You start creating. You start leading. You start living. Because once you like who you are, you don't need to perform for anyone. You can walk into any room knowing that you belong there not because someone told you so, but because you decided so. Remember this. No one can give you the confidence you refuse to give yourself. Not a partner, not a job, not an achievement. External validation is temporary. It fades as soon as the praise stops. But the kind of confidence that comes from self-acceptance, that's permanent. It's steady. It's the kind that carries you through life's storms. You owe it to yourself to build that kind of strength, not for anyone else's approval, but because you deserve to live free from the chains of self-doubt. You deserve to wake up feeling proud of the person you see in the mirror. You deserve to walk through life without constantly asking for permission to exist fully. So, choose to like yourself today, right now, before the world ever does. Because the moment you do, you stop living like a reaction and start living like a decision. That's where confidence begins. Not in applause, not in validation, but in the quiet, unshakable knowing that you are already enough. That's what makes you dangerously confident, because once you own your worth, no one can take it away. Chapter 2. Train your mind to stay calm under pressure. Most people fall apart not because they lack talent, but because they lose control when pressure shows up. Anyone can feel strong when everything is going their way, but the real measure of confidence is how calm you stay when life gets hard. Pressure reveals what kind of person you are on the inside. It exposes how trained your mind really is. And the truth is, most people never train their mind. They train their body, they train their skills, they train their routines, but their mind is left to react however it wants. If you want to be truly confident, you have to learn to stay centered when the world starts to shake. Calmness under pressure doesn't mean you don't feel stress. It means you've built the awareness to respond instead of react. Every time you face a tough situation, an argument, a deadline, a failure, you get two choices. You can panic, or you can pause. Most people panic because they've never practiced pausing. The pause is where strength lives. It's where your mind decides whether to crumble or to lead. When you can pause, take a breath, and stay focused while everyone else is falling apart, you become powerful. That's not luck. That's training. Your mind is like a muscle. If you never challenge it, it stays weak. You can't expect to stay calm in a crisis if you never practice calmness in small moments. The way you respond to small frustrations is the rehearsal for how you'll handle big pressure. When someone cuts you off in traffic, when plans don't go your way, when someone disrespects you, those are training sessions. Every time you choose to breathe instead of explode, you're building control. You're teaching your brain that calmness is the default, not chaos. The first step to training your mind is awareness. You have to start noticing what triggers your stress. Notice how your body reacts when things go wrong. Do you tense up? Do you start replaying worst-case scenarios? Do you lash out? Awareness is the doorway to control. You can't fix what you don't see. Most people go through life unaware of their internal reactions. They just act out their stress and call it personality. But when you start observing your thoughts and emotions, you create space between you and them. That space is freedom. That's where control begins. The second step is learning to breathe with purpose. Breathing might sound too simple, but it's your most powerful tool to calm your nervous system. When pressure hits, your body goes into fight or flight mode. Your heartbeat rises, your thoughts race, your decisions get cloudy. But when you take slow, deep breaths, you signal your brain that you're safe. You tell your body it doesn't need to panic. That one habit, intentional breathing, can change the way you handle every high-stress moment in your life. Third, you must learn to control your focus. Most people let their attention get hijacked by fear, doubt, and what-ifs. Pressure makes the mind jump to the worst outcome. But confidence grows when you train your focus to stay on what you can control. Ask yourself, in any tough situation, what's within my power right now? The moment you direct your focus to action instead of worry, you shift from being helpless to being capable. Calmness is not the absence of problems, it's the presence of control. One powerful practice is to visualize calm responses before chaos happens. Every athlete, performer, and leader knows the value of mental rehearsal. Imagine yourself staying composed when things go wrong. See yourself breathing steadily, thinking clearly, and making smart decisions. When you picture it enough, your brain starts to believe it's possible. So when real pressure hits, you've already been there in your mind. You respond with familiarity, not fear. Another important part of mental training is mastering your inner dialogue. The words you say to yourself when you're under stress can either ground you or destroy you. Most people talk themselves out of strength. They say things like, "I can't handle this," or "This always happens to me." That kind of self-talk weakens your confidence instantly. Replace those thoughts with phrases that build stability. "I've handled worse. I know what to do next. I'm in control of my response." The words you choose shape the emotions you feel. Emotions are not your enemy. They're signals. But untrained minds treat every emotion like an emergency. You feel anger, and you act on it. You feel fear, and you freeze. You feel doubt, and you stop trying. Calm people feel those emotions too. They just don't obey them. They listen, understand, and then choose how to respond. That's emotional intelligence, and it's one of the strongest forms of confidence you can build. Pressure often feels heavier when you take things personally. Not every challenge is a reflection of your worth. Sometimes life is just testing your readiness. A calm mind understands that setbacks are temporary and solvable. When you stop seeing problems as personal attacks, you free up mental space to solve them. That's the difference between people who crumble and people who rise. They don't waste energy on self-blame. They use that energy for progress. You also have to take care of your physical state if you want to control your mental state. Your mind and body are connected. If you live on junk food, no sleep, and endless scrolling, your brain becomes restless and unfocused. You can't expect mental calmness in a body that's constantly exhausted. Eat clean, hydrate, exercise, and rest. These are not luxuries. They're the foundation for clarity. When your body feels good, your mind can think straight. Another skill for staying calm under pressure is detachment. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop overreacting. You start to understand that not everything deserves your emotional energy. You learn to separate what matters from what's just noise. Detachment is the art of caring deeply about the outcome, but staying peaceful about the process. When you stop needing everything to go perfectly, you stop suffering when it doesn't. There will be moments in life when everything seems to fall apart. Your plans fail, people disappoint you, opportunities vanish. In those moments, calmness is not pretending everything is fine. It's telling yourself, this situation will not control me. You take a deep breath, you adjust your perspective, and you keep moving forward. That's what real strength looks like. One of the best ways to train your mind is through challenge. Seek discomfort on purpose. Do hard things regularly. Push yourself into situations that test your patience, focus, and composure. It could be cold showers, public speaking, tough workouts, or learning something new. Every time you face controlled pressure, you expand your capacity. You're telling your brain, pressure doesn't break me, it builds me. Then when life throws real challenges your way, you've already developed the habit of staying centered. Avoid the trap of perfectionism. Perfectionists crumble under pressure because they fear mistakes more than they trust their preparation. Calm confidence comes from knowing that mistakes are part of growth. You don't lose your balance because of one failure. You adjust, learn, and keep going. The person who expects mistakes but trusts themselves to recover stays steady no matter what. The environment you create also affects your calmness. Surround yourself with people who handle pressure well. Energy spreads quickly. If you're always around people who panic, complain, or dramatize every problem, you'll absorb that energy. Be around people who stay grounded, who solve instead of react. You'll learn from their emotional rhythm. Another practice is reflection. After every challenging situation, review how you handled it. Ask yourself what worked, what didn't, and how you can do better next time. This turns every stressful event into a lesson. With time, your confidence grows because you have evidence you've been through things and learned from them. Pressure loses its power over someone who learns from it. You can also strengthen your calmness through gratitude. Pressure makes you focus on what's wrong. Gratitude brings your mind back to what's right. When you pause and recognize the good in your life, your brain releases calm energy. It reminds you that life isn't all chaos. Gratitude grounds you in the present and helps you see perspective in difficult moments. Train yourself to be slow when others rush. In tense moments, most people talk too fast, decide too quickly, and act impulsively. Calm people do the opposite. They slow down. They take a second to think before they speak or act. That small delay changes everything. It prevents regret and creates clarity. People who master that ability often seem unshakable, not because they don't feel pressure, but because they refuse to move without purpose. You also need to understand that calmness is built in private. You don't become composed by accident in public. It's what you practice when no one's watching. It's how you deal with daily frustrations, how you treat people when you're tired, how you speak to yourself when you fail. Calmness is built in the small, invisible moments that prepare you for the big, visible ones. Pressure is not the enemy, it's the test that reveals whether you've been training or not. When you stay calm, you can see opportunities in chaos. You can think strategically when others are frozen in fear. You become the person people look to for direction because you radiate stability. That's the kind of confidence that changes everything. When you're calm, you can listen better. You can understand before reacting. You can lead without shouting. That kind of strength makes people trust you. It gives you an edge in every part of life, business, relationships, health, and personal growth. Calmness is power because it gives you clarity, and clarity gives you the ability to make better choices. Every morning, remind yourself that peace is your baseline. Before the world starts demanding your attention, take time to center yourself. Meditate, journal, or sit quietly with your thoughts. Set the tone for your day, because if you don't start your day with calmness, the world will start it for you with chaos. Protect your mental state the way you'd protect your most valuable possession, because it is. Confidence doesn't come from being fearless. It comes from trusting that no matter how stressful things get, you can stay grounded and find your way through. Calmness isn't weakness, it's quiet control. It's knowing that you can face life without losing yourself in it. So train your mind every single day. Practice awareness, control your focus, breathe deeply, and challenge yourself often. Learn to slow down your reactions and choose your responses. Build your strength in silence so that when pressure comes, you stand tall. The calmest person in the room is usually the one with the most power, not because they dominate others, but because they have mastered themselves. And that's the essence of dangerous confidence. It's not about how loud you are or how much you show off. It's about how steady you stay when life tries to shake you. A calm mind is an unbreakable weapon. Train it, guard it, and use it wisely. Because once you learn to stay calm under pressure, there's nothing life can throw at you that you can't handle. Chapter 3. Do one thing daily that scares your comfort zone. Growth begins the moment comfort ends. Every time you choose comfort over courage, you shrink your potential a little bit more. You stay in the same conversations, the same routines, the same safe places, and you tell yourself you're fine. But deep down, you know you're not growing. The truth is simple. If you want to become dangerously confident, you must do one thing every single day that challenges your comfort zone. That's how confidence is built. One small act of courage at a time. Your comfort zone is not your friend. It's a cage that feels cozy. It gives you the illusion of safety, while slowly taking away your energy and ambition. Nothing truly exciting has ever been created inside of it. People who accomplish meaningful things aren't braver than you. They've just trained themselves to act even when it's uncomfortable. They've built the habit of doing what most people avoid. Every day they choose the harder path, not because they enjoy the struggle, but because they know growth hides behind it. When you step into something uncomfortable, your brain resists. It tells you to stop, to play safe, to come back to familiar ground. That resistance is not danger. It's your mind trying to protect what it already knows. Confidence begins when you recognize that fear doesn't mean stop, it means grow. The people who change their lives are not the ones who wait to feel ready. They are the ones who take the step even when their hands shake. Doing one thing that scares your comfort zone doesn't mean taking massive leaps every day. It means making small, deliberate choices that push you just a little further. Speak up in a meeting when you usually stay quiet. Make a phone call you've been avoiding. Try a new workout that challenges your limits. Start the project you've been overthinking. Each act rewires your mind to associate discomfort with strength, not danger. Over time, what once terrified you becomes normal, and that's how you expand your range. The first barrier you'll face is fear of judgment. Many people never take risks because they're afraid of what others might think. But here's the truth. Most people are too busy thinking about their own lives to think deeply about yours. You waste so much potential trying to avoid opinions that may never exist. The moment you stop letting imaginary judgment control your decisions, you'll feel free. That freedom is confidence in motion. You must also understand that comfort and confidence cannot live together for long. Confidence grows through exposure to uncertainty. The more you face the unknown, the more adaptable you become. Your comfort zone tells you to stay where it's predictable, but predictability kills passion. Life is meant to be explored, not just survived. Every time you try something unfamiliar, you stretch your identity. You start seeing yourself as someone capable, resourceful, brave. If you want to grow, discomfort must become part of your daily routine, just like brushing your teeth or exercising. When you wake up, ask yourself, what can I do today that will stretch me? Don't wait for motivation. It won't always show up. Start with action, and confidence will follow. Small wins build momentum, and momentum changes everything. Once your brain gets used to progress, it starts craving challenge instead of comfort. The people who live boldly are not fearless. They've simply made peace with discomfort. They understand that pain and growth are not enemies. They are partners. The sting of discomfort is proof that you're breaking old limits. It's the sound of your potential waking up. Instead of avoiding that feeling, learn to appreciate it. When your heart beats faster before a hard conversation, or your hands shake before taking a new risk, that's not weakness. That's transformation in progress. Your comfort zone thrives on routine. It convinces you that consistency is enough even when it's keeping you stuck. You can work the same job, see the same people, follow the same habits for years and call it stability. But stability without growth slowly becomes stagnation. Doing one thing daily that scares you keeps your spirit alive. It reminds you that you're not done learning. It gives you a story to tell at the end of each day, one where you showed up for yourself. To make this habit real, start small but stay consistent. You don't need to climb mountains, just walk toward what feels slightly uncomfortable. If talking to strangers scares you, start by saying hello to someone new. If you fear rejection, apply for something you might not get. If you're shy about your ideas, share one anyway. The point isn't the size of the action, it's the willingness to take it. The compound effect of small courage is unstoppable confidence. One of the most powerful results of this daily practice is how it changes your identity. Each time you do something uncomfortable,
your mind gets new evidence that you can handle life. You start saying things like, I can figure this out instead of I can't do that. That simple shift builds an unbreakable mindset. You stop defining yourself by what you fear, and start defining yourself by what you conquer. You also begin to respect yourself more. Every time you break through discomfort, you send yourself a message. I can count on me. That message builds self-trust, and self-trust builds confidence. Most people think confidence is about having no fear, but it's actually about trusting yourself to handle fear. That trust can only be earned through action. You can't think your way into confidence, you have to prove it to yourself. Some days your fear will disguise itself as logic. It will whisper reasons to delay action. I need more time. I'll start next week. This isn't the right moment. Those thoughts sound responsible, but they're really avoidance dressed up as planning. Don't let hesitation trick you into paralysis. The best way to defeat fear is through movement. Once you start, fear loses its grip, because it feeds on inaction. You'll also need to face the fear of failure. Failure isn't something to be ashamed of, it's feedback. Every time something doesn't work out, you learn what to do differently next time. The most confident people are not the ones who never fail, they're the ones who fail fast, learn quickly and move forward. Every failure makes you sharper, stronger, and wise. If you let fear of failure stop you, you miss the lessons that would have made you great. The comfort zone also feeds off your need for control. You want everything to be predictable and safe. But life isn't built that way. You can't control every outcome, and you don't need to. The goal is not to eliminate uncertainty, it's to become calm within it. When you make peace with not knowing, you open doors to experiences that would have scared you before. You start trusting life to unfold as you grow with it. Doing one thing daily that scares you builds resilience. You develop thicker skin, not through isolation, but through exposure. You realize that discomfort doesn't destroy you, it strengthens you. The first time you try something new, it feels terrifying. The 10th time, it feels normal. That's how courage becomes part of who you are. This practice also changes how you see opportunities. Instead of avoiding challenges, you start chasing them. You begin to see fear as a sign of direction. If something scares you, it usually means it matters. That's where growth lives. Right behind that uneasy feeling. The things that scare you the most are often the exact things that can transform your life. You'll also notice how your confidence influences others. When people see you taking risks, they start believing they can too. Your courage gives them permission to try. You become a quiet example of what's possible. That's the ripple effect of confidence. It spreads without needing to be announced. You'll never outgrow discomfort. No matter how experienced or successful you become, there will always be another level that feels uncertain. The difference is that over time, you stop fearing that feeling. You start seeking it because you've learned it's a sign of progress. The day you stop being challenged is the day you start declining. To live fully, you must outgrow the need for everything to be easy. Easy teaches you nothing. Easy keeps you bored. Easy keeps you average. Confidence doesn't grow from ease, it grows from effort. When you face fear daily, your capacity expands. You start doing things you once thought were impossible, not because the fear disappeared, but because you grew bigger than it. Your comfort zone will always whisper that you've done enough. It will try to convince you that playing it safe is smarter. But deep down you know comfort never leads to greatness. You don't build confidence by staying invisible. You build it by showing up even when you feel exposed. If you ever wonder where to start, begin with one question. What am I avoiding today? The thing you avoid the most is often the thing that will grow you the fastest. Whether it's a conversation, a project, or a dream you've buried, walk toward. You don't have to conquer it all at once. Just take one step. The next step will reveal itself once you start moving. Remember, courage isn't about grand gestures. It's about consistency. It's about showing up every single day, even when it's uncomfortable. The little acts of bravery you stack today become the foundation of the unstoppable person you'll be tomorrow. You're not trying to prove anything to others. You're proving to yourself that fear has no power over your choices. When you live this way, your relationship with fear changes completely. It stops being the enemy. It becomes a guide. It points to where the next version of you is waiting. Confidence grows in that space between fear and action, the space where you decide to move anyway. You don't need to wait for the perfect plan or the perfect mood. Start small, start scared, start anyway. Each day, do one thing that stretches you beyond comfort. Over time you'll look back and realize that the person you've become is unrecognizable from the one who used to play safe. That's what it means to live with dangerous confidence, not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. It's the daily choice to keep expanding when life tries to shrink you. Every day you do something that scares your comfort zone, you reclaim a little more of your potential. That's how you become someone who no longer waits for courage. You live it.
Chapter 4. Speak your needs clearly and stop apologizing for them. Most people spend their lives silencing their own needs because they fear being seen as demanding, selfish, or difficult. They water themselves down to keep the peace, hoping others will understand them without ever speaking up. But unspoken needs turn into quiet resentment. And quiet resentment turns into distance, exhaustion, and unhappiness. Confidence means valuing yourself enough to speak honestly about what you need, without guilt or apology. It means realizing that your voice matters, and that your needs are not inconveniences. They are boundaries that protect your well-being. You cannot build strong relationships, careers, or peace of mind while constantly hiding what you truly feel. When you stay silent to avoid conflict, you create internal conflict. You start to feel disconnected from who you are. You begin to perform kindness instead of living authenticity. The habit of staying quiet may make you agreeable, but it also makes you invisible. The truth is, people can't respect what they don't understand, and they can't understand what you don't express. The first step to speaking your needs clearly is to believe that they are valid. Many people struggle with that. They think other people's comfort is more important than their own. They were raised to please, to adjust, to tolerate. But confidence comes from unlearning that pattern. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to express what you expect, desire, and deserve. You don't have to justify why your peace matters. The moment you start believing that your needs are important, your communication changes naturally. Clarity is power. When you know what you need, it becomes easier to express it calmly and directly. Unclear communication creates confusion and disappointment. Instead of hinting, over-explaining, or waiting for others to guess, state what you want in simple, honest words. I need time to think. I prefer a different approach. I would appreciate more support on this.
These are not rude statements, they are responsible ones. Direct language doesn't make you harsh, it makes you real. The reason people struggle with clarity is fear of rejection. They think that if they speak honestly, they'll lose approval or affection. But hiding your needs doesn't protect relationships, it damages them. People can't meet you where you truly are if you never let them see you. The healthiest relationships are built on truth, not guessing games. When you communicate clearly, you create trust. Others know exactly where they stand with you, and that stability is the foundation of genuine respect. You must also stop apologizing for having needs. Apologies are for mistakes, not for being human. You don't need to say, "I'm sorry for asking," when you're making a reasonable request. You don't need to say, "I'm sorry for needing space," when you're taking care of your energy. Over-apologizing teaches people to expect less from you, and it teaches you to expect less from yourself. Every time you apologize for existing, you shrink your self-worth. Instead, replace unnecessary apologies with gratitude and assertiveness. Say, "Thank you for understanding," or "I appreciate your time," instead of "Sorry for bothering you." That one change transforms how people perceive you and how you perceive yourself. Speaking your needs doesn't mean forcing others to agree with you. It means expressing yourself with respect and standing by your truth. Confidence is not about being right, it's about being authentic. When you speak clearly, you don't need to raise your voice or prove your point, you simply express your position with calm certainty. People who respect themselves don't need to argue to be understood. They communicate to create clarity, not control. One of the biggest obstacles to self-expression is the fear of conflict. Many people avoid honest conversations because they associate them with drama or tension. But silence creates more problems than truth ever could. When you suppress your needs, you build invisible walls that keep people out. The courage to have hard conversations is a form of love, love for yourself, and respect for others. Honest communication gives people a chance to rise to your level of clarity. Those who truly care about you will appreciate the honesty, even if it challenges them. To speak your needs clearly, you must first know what they are. Take time to understand yourself. Pay attention to when you feel drained, frustrated, or uneasy. Those feelings are signals pointing to unmet needs. Maybe you need more rest, more honesty, more boundaries, more attention to your goals. The better you know yourself, the more precise your communication becomes. You can't express what you don't understand, and you can't fix what you keep denying. Self-awareness gives your voice direction. Confidence in communication is also about your tone and presence. Speak slowly, with steady breath and direct eye contact. Confidence isn't about being loud. It's about being clear. When your tone is calm, your words carry more weight. You don't have to rush or fill every silence. Silence can be powerful. It gives your message space to sink in. People listen differently when they feel your composure. Stop expecting people to read your mind. It's unfair to hold others accountable for needs you never voiced. You may think you're being kind by not speaking up, but in reality, you're creating confusion. Unspoken expectations lead to unnecessary disappointment. Clarity protects relationships. When people know what you need, they can respond honestly, and that honesty builds mutual respect. You must also separate assertiveness from aggression. Assertiveness is clarity with respect. Aggression is clarity without empathy. The goal is to express, not to overpower. A calm, steady voice communicates maturity and self-assurance. When you stay composed, even during disagreement, you teach people that your boundaries are firm, but fair. That balance earns long-term respect. There will be times when your needs aren't met even after you express them. That's okay. Confidence isn't about controlling outcomes, it's about honoring your truth regardless of the response. Some people may resist your boundaries because they benefited from your silence. Don't take their discomfort personally. Growth often feels uncomfortable to those who prefer the old version of you. Stay consistent. People adjust to clear communication over time. Learning to express your needs also means breaking free from guilt. Many people associate guilt with strength, as if self-sacrifice makes them more virtuous. But guilt is not proof of goodness, it's a signal of conditioning. You've been taught to equate self-care with selfishness, but they are not the same. Speaking your needs is not selfish, it's self-respect in action. When you take care of yourself, you show up as a healthier, kinder, and more grounded person for everyone around you. You must also build emotional honesty with yourself. Don't minimize how you feel. When something bothers you, don't brush it off or say it's fine when it isn't. Honesty with yourself creates alignment between your inner world and outer behavior. Pretending to be okay while you're struggling only deepens the disconnect. Your feelings deserve acknowledgement, even if they're uncomfortable. If you've been quiet for too long, your voice might shake at first. That's normal. Confidence doesn't mean you feel certain all the time. It means you act despite the discomfort. With practice, your voice will grow stronger, your tone steadier, and your words clearer. The goal isn't perfection, it's authenticity. Every time you express yourself, you strengthen the muscle of self-trust. You will notice that when you start communicating openly, some people may step away. Don't be afraid of that. The relationships that thrive on your silence were never healthy. When you speak your needs, you filter your environment. The people who remain are the ones who value your honesty. That's how you create real connections, not through pretending, but through truth. Another key to communicating effectively is timing. Not every moment is right for serious conversations. Choose moments when both parties can listen, not just react. Calm environments allow clear messages. Communication is not only about what you say, it's about when and how you say it. Respectful timing makes difficult conversations productive instead of destructive. It's also important to listen as much as you speak. Confidence is not dominance, it's balance. When you speak your truth, also allow others to express theirs. Listening doesn't weaken your point, it shows maturity. Two confident people can disagree without disrespect. Healthy communication isn't about winning, it's about understanding. You can practice this skill in daily life. The next time someone asks for your opinion, give it honestly, instead of saying what you think they want to hear. When you feel overlooked, express it directly without anger. When you need space, say so without guilt. Each time you do, you train your brain to associate honesty with safety, instead of fear. Don't confuse kindness with silence. Being kind doesn't mean avoiding truth. In fact, real kindness often requires honesty. You can be direct and compassionate at the same time. The difference lies in intention. Speak with the intention to be clear, not cruel. People respect truth when it's delivered with empathy. When you stop apologizing for your needs, your posture changes. You walk differently, you speak differently, you carry yourself with quiet strength. You stop asking for permission to exist comfortably in your own life. That's a powerful transformation. People will notice the difference, not because you're louder, but because you're more certain. Certainty is magnetic. Confidence in communication also improves your decision-making. When you're used to suppressing your needs, you make choices that please others, but hurt you. Once you start expressing yourself, your decisions align with your values. You stop saying yes to things that drain you. You choose based on what's right for you, not what looks right to others. That shift brings the habit of speaking clearly and without apology, also strengthens your leadership. Whether in work, family, or community, people follow those who communicate with purpose. When you express expectations and boundaries confidently, you inspire trust. Others see your clarity as stability. Leaders who speak with conviction don't need to demand respect. They earn it naturally. One powerful exercise is to write down what you truly need in your life right now. Emotional needs, physical needs, personal goals, then practice saying them out loud. The act of hearing your own voice declare your truth builds inner alignment. You'll feel your confidence rise because you're no longer hiding from yourself. The more honest you become, the lighter you feel. You release the constant pressure of pretend. You stop rehearsing what to say and start speaking from authenticity. You no longer worry about being too much because you finally understand that being real is never too much. In time, you'll notice how your energy changes. You attract people who communicate clearly, who don't play games, who respect boundaries. Your relationships become more peaceful because honesty eliminates confusion. You'll handle disagreements with maturity and speak truth without guilt. To live confidently, you must give yourself permission to be heard. Don't wait for someone else to validate your feelings or understand your silence. Use your voice. Use it to create boundaries, to express gratitude, to share truth, to protect peace. The more you use it, the more natural it becomes. Confidence isn't built by being liked, it's built by being honest. The person who can speak their needs clearly, without apology, lives free. Free from resentment, free from guilt, free from fear of judgment. That's dangerous confidence. The kind that comes from knowing who you are, what you want, and refusing to apologize for either.
Chapter 5. Trust your own decisions and stop seeking permission. One of the hardest things you will ever learn is to trust your own decisions. From childhood, you are taught to look outside yourself for direction. You ask teachers for answers, parents for approval, friends for opinions, society for validation. Over time, you forget that you have a mind capable of leading you. You begin to doubt your instincts and hesitate when choices appear. You start believing that someone else knows better than you. But real confidence begins when you stop waiting for permission and start trusting your own judgment. Every decision you make carries a message. Either you believe in yourself or you don't. When you constantly seek validation before acting, you tell your mind that it cannot be trusted. That self-doubt grows stronger with every moment of hesitation. The only way to rebuild that trust is to start making decisions on your own and standing by them, even if they turn out imperfect. Perfection was never the goal. Growth is. Trusting your own decisions doesn't mean you'll always be right. It means you're willing to take ownership of your choices. It means you value learning over approval. People who fear mistakes often stay stuck in analysis, asking everyone else what to do. Indecision is a decision too.
It's a choice to let life happen to you instead of creating it yourself. The confident person doesn't need certainty to move forward. They need direction and faith in their ability to adjust along the way. When you rely too heavily on other people's opinions, your mind becomes noisy. Every voice pulls you in a different direction until you lose your sense of self. You begin to live based on what others expect instead of what you believe. It's impossible to feel fulfilled when your life is built on borrowed opinions. You can listen to advice, but you must never hand over the final vote. The direction of your life belongs to you, not to anyone else's comfort. To trust your decisions, you first need to understand where self-doubt comes from. It usually begins when you attach your worth to being right. You fear making mistakes because you equate failure with inadequacy. But mistakes are not evidence of weakness. They are proof that you're participating in life. Every strong decision maker you admire has a long list of failed attempts behind them. What sets them apart is their ability to keep trusting themselves through those experiences. Confidence is not built by always being correct. It's built by refusing to collapse when you're not. There will always be people who think they know what's best for you. Some do it out of love, others out of control. You can appreciate their concern while still choosing your own path. Seeking constant permission may keep you safe, but it also keeps you small. Safety and growth rarely exist together. Every time you choose your own way, you grow more independent and grounded in who you are. That self-assurance doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you free. The need for permission often comes from fear of judgment. You worry about disappointing others, so you stay silent or follow their suggestions. But every time you silence your intuition, a small part of you goes unheard. Over the years, that silence becomes emptiness. People end up living lives that look successful but feel hollow, because they ignored their inner direction. Freedom begins the day you realize that your peace matters more than approval. Trusting yourself also means forgiving your past mistakes. Many people lose confidence because they keep punishing themselves for old decisions. They replay them, analyze them, and use them as proof they shouldn't trust themselves again. But that mindset keeps you chained to the past. The purpose of reflection is not to create guilt, it's to learn. Once you've learned, you must move forward. You can't build confidence on a foundation of regret. Growth requires forgiveness. To strengthen self-trust, start with small decisions. Stop outsourcing your daily choices. Pick what to eat, what to wear, how to spend your time based on what feels right for you. Every small decision is an opportunity to rebuild trust. Over time, your confidence expands to larger choices. Career, relationships, goal. The more you practice deciding for yourself, the quieter the need for permission becomes. A confident mind doesn't rush decisions, but it doesn't avoid them either. It gathers information, reflects briefly, then acts. The action creates clarity. The hesitant person waits for clarity before acting, but clarity rarely comes without experience. You can think forever and still not know how something will turn out until you try. Taking action is how you learn whether a path fits you or not. When you start trusting yourself, you stop chasing guarantees. You accept that uncertainty is part of every journey. No one knows exactly what will happen, and that's okay. The goal is not to eliminate uncertainty, but to handle it with calm. When you rely on your own judgment, uncertainty becomes less frightening because you trust your ability to adapt. That adaptability is what makes you resilient. Trust also grows through consistency. Every time you follow through on what you said you'd do, your self-respect increases. When you break promises to yourself, your confidence erodes. Self-trust is built the same way you build trust with others, through reliability. If you say you'll do something, honor it. Even the smallest commitment matters. Over time, your brain learns that your word can be trusted. You'll notice that the people who make decisions with ease aren't necessarily smarter. They just trust their instincts more. They understand that waiting for the perfect answer is another form of procrastination. They act, learn, and adjust. This forward motion gives them an advantage because life rewards action, not hesitation. You can always correct a course that's moving. You can't steer something that's standing still. Stop asking everyone else for advice on every little thing. Ask yourself first, what do I truly want? What feels right in my gut? You may not always have the full picture, but your instincts are a powerful compass. The more you listen to them, the sharper they become. Intuition isn't magic. It's experience and awareness combined. It's the mind's way of recognizing patterns you don't consciously see. It's important to realize that no one else has to understand your path. People will give advice based on their fears, not your potential. They'll project their limitations onto your choices. If you absorb their fear, you'll start doubting your own direction. The best decisions often won't make sense to others because they weren't meant to walk your path. You owe it to yourself to trust what feels right, even if it doesn't get approval. When you stop seeking permission, you reclaim your energy. You stop waiting for someone else to open doors that you could open yourself. That habit of asking for approval drains your power. Confidence is about authority over your life, making choices that align with your values, without needing external confirmation. That doesn't mean ignoring feedback. It means using it as reference, not as instruction. You will make mistakes, but you'll survive them. You'll choose wrong sometimes, but you'll learn faster. Every decision, good or bad, teaches you something about yourself. Each one sharpens your understanding of what works and what doesn't. The more decisions you make, the more data you collect about your strengths, preferences, and purpose. That knowledge builds confidence that no advice can replace. Comparison is another enemy of self-trust. When you constantly look at what others are doing, you disconnect from your own path. Their pace becomes your pressure. But confidence doesn't come from matching others. It comes from aligning with yourself. Every person's timing is unique. Your journey is unfolding exactly as it should. The only standard that matters is whether your choices make you proud of who you are becoming. To develop stronger decision-making skills, practice solitude. Spend time alone with your thoughts. In silence, you learn to distinguish your voice from the noise of the world. When you're constantly surrounded by opinions, your intuition gets drowned out. Solitude gives you space to hear your own reasoning. That's where clarity lives. When you make a decision, commit to it. Don't spend the next week second-guessing. Self-doubt grows through overthinking. Once you've chosen, move forward with intention. Even if it's not perfect, progress teaches more than hesitation ever will. Decision-making is not about always being right. It's about being decisive enough to keep moving. Self-trust also involves emotional maturity. It means accepting responsibility when a decision goes wrong instead of blaming circumstances or people. Accountability strengthens confidence because it proves you can handle outcomes. People who constantly shift blame never grow. They keep repeating the same pattern. When you own your decisions, even the painful ones, you gain wisdom and resilience. You'll also notice that as you start trusting yourself more, your relationships improve. People respect those who know their own mind. They stop trying to control you because your clarity leaves no room for manipulation. You'll attract people who appreciate your decisiveness instead of those who exploit your uncertainty. Clear energy draws respect. Another reason to trust your own judgment is that you are the one who lives with the results. Others can give advice freely because they don't bear the consequences. You do, so it's only fair that you should have the final say. When the results affect your peace, your happiness, or your direction, your opinion should carry the most weight. Learning to trust your decisions also strengthens your creativity. When you stop doubting yourself, your mind opens to new ideas. You become more experimental and curious. You stop asking, "What if I'm wrong?" and start asking, "What can I learn?" That mindset shift turns fear into growth fuel. Confidence and creativity are born from the same place: self-trust. Don't wait for certainty. Waiting for absolute assurance is just another way of avoiding risk. Every decision carries a level of unknown, but that's what makes it meaningful. Courage is built through choosing before everything is clear. Each time you do, you build tolerance for uncertainty. That tolerance is what separates confident people from the anxious crowd. Trusting yourself also requires self-respect. You can't make strong decisions if you secretly believe you're unworthy of good outcomes. Respect yourself enough to believe that your perspective matters. Your life is evidence that you've already overcome challenges and figured things out. Give yourself credit for that. Every challenge you've survived has strengthened your judgment. You are more capable than you realize. When doubt tries to creep in, remind yourself of your past wins. Think about the times you trusted your gut and it worked. Those moments are proof that your instincts are reliable. Keep a mental record of them. Confidence grows when you collect evidence of your own capability. No one can give you lasting certainty. It has to come from within. The people you admire for their confidence didn't wait for permission. They trusted their ability to figure things out as they went. You can do the same. The truth is, you don't need approval to build a good life. You need courage to trust your decisions and face what comes next. The moment you stop waiting for someone else to say yes, your life starts moving again. You stop drifting and start leading yourself. This is what dangerous confidence looks like. Not arrogance, but quiet ownership. It's the power to say, "I'll decide and I'll deal with it." It's knowing that even if things go wrong, you'll adjust, learn, and rise again. That mindset makes you unstoppable, because nothing outside of you controls your peace. Trust your own decisions. Take responsibility for your path, and stop seeking permission to live your life. You've earned the right to choose for yourself. No one else is more qualified to decide how your story unfolds.
Chapter 6. Build quiet strength that does not need attention. Strength is not always loud. True confidence does not demand recognition, applause, or validation. It lives quietly within a person who knows their worth without needing to prove it. The strongest people are not the ones shouting about what they can do. They are the ones who stay calm, composed, and grounded, no matter what life throws their way. Building quiet strength is about becoming solid inside, so you don't have to keep seeking reassurance outside. It's learning to walk through chaos with steadiness and self-respect, knowing that power is not in noise but in control. You don't have to announce your resilience to have it. Quiet strength grows in silence, in the small daily acts of discipline that no one sees. It's built when you choose to stay kind instead of bitter, when you keep promises without recognition, when you work hard while no one is watching. The reward of quiet strength is peace, the kind that cannot be taken by opinions, rejection, or circumstance. That peace becomes your armor. The world today often confuses attention with value. Many people measure their worth by how visible they are, how many people notice their effort,
or how loudly they can talk about their progress. But attention fades, and validation is temporary. Quiet strength doesn't rely on either. It comes from building something inside yourself that doesn't disappear when the crowd looks away. It's self-respect that does not need an audience. To build quiet strength, you must first be comfortable with being unseen. This doesn't mean hiding or diminishing yourself. It means detaching your worth from visibility. You don't need everyone to understand your journey for it to be meaningful. The approval of others might feel comforting, but it's never reliable. When your confidence depends on being noticed, you'll always be chasing. True inner strength begins when you stop performing and start living with intention. Silence can be your greatest ally. In a world that celebrates noise, stillness becomes rare and powerful. A calm person can see what others miss because their mind is not clouded by the need to react. Quiet strength allows you to observe, to think clearly, and to act deliberately. It gives you control over your emotions instead of letting circumstances control you. That kind of calm is not weakness, it's mastery. You can recognize people with quiet strength by the way they carry themselves. They don't rush to defend their worth. They don't argue to prove a point. They listen before they respond. They act based on principle, not impulse. Their confidence shows in the way they handle difficulty, not in the way they seek attention. When you learn to carry your power like this, people feel it even when you don't speak. Quiet strength is built through solitude. Spending time alone allows you to know yourself deeply. It helps you separate who you are from who the world expects you to be. When you can be comfortable in your own company, you stop relying on constant stimulation to feel whole. Solitude sharpens awareness, strengthens focus, and deepens confidence. You begin to make choices not out of pressure, but out of clarity. Another foundation of quiet strength is self-control. The ability to remain composed when others lose theirs is rare and powerful. Self-control doesn't mean suppressing emotions. It means managing them wisely. You can feel anger, sadness, or frustration without letting those feelings dictate your actions. You can disagree without disrespect. You can stand firm without shouting. When you learn to control your reactions, you become unshakable. Discipline also plays a major role. Quiet strength grows in consistent action. It's built when you keep commitments to yourself, even when you don't feel motivated. Discipline gives you confidence because it's proof that you can rely on yourself. When you show up day after day, doing the work, improving your skills, maintaining your habits, you create inner certainty. That certainty doesn't need attention because it already knows its value. It's easy to confuse noise with power, but they're opposites. Noise seeks to be seen. Power doesn't need to. The loudest person in the room is often the most insecure one, trying to convince themselves and others that they matter. Quiet strength doesn't seek to convince, it simply is. It shows through presence, not performance. To cultivate this kind of strength, you must stop comparing yourself to others. Comparison drains energy and breeds insecurity. Everyone's path moves differently, and your timing is unique. When you constantly measure your progress against someone else's, you forget your own direction. Quiet strength is personal. It grows when you focus on your own lane. You stop needing to prove and start choosing what's meaningful to you. Resilience is another core element. Life will test you again and again. Challenges are inevitable, but how you respond to them defines your inner power. People who rely on external strength collapse when things fall apart. Those who have built quiet strength adapt. They face pain without falling into self-pity. They learn from setbacks instead of complaining about them. They don't broadcast their struggles for sympathy. They use their energy to rebuild. You also need patience to develop this inner foundation. Real strength takes time. It's built in layers, through experiences that test your endurance and faith. You can't rush emotional maturity. Every delay, disappointment, and detour shapes your stability if you allow it. When you stop rushing outcomes and start trusting the process, your confidence deepens. You realize that strength is not about speed, it's about steadiness. Humility is a sign of quiet power. When you don't need attention to feel valuable, humility becomes natural. You don't have to compete with others because you understand your own worth. You can celebrate people's success without feeling smaller. That kind of humility attracts respect because it's rare. People trust those who have strength without ego. Forgiveness is another form of silent strength. It takes courage to let go of resentment without seeking revenge or recognition. You don't need to announce that you've moved on. You simply stop allowing pain to control your peace. That decision to release what hurt you is an act of power. Forgiveness frees you to focus on your growth instead of your wounds. Confidence that doesn't seek attention is deeply rooted in purpose. When you know why you're doing something, you don't crave external validation. You're motivated by inner conviction, not applause. Purpose-driven people move quietly, but consistently. They don't waste time proving their worth. They spend their energy creating, improving, and building something meaningful. Quiet strength also shows in how you treat others. You don't need to belittle people to feel strong. True strength uplifts, protects, and empowers. You can disagree without hate, lead without control, and correct without humiliation. People remember how you made them feel, not how loudly you spoke. Strength expressed through kindness carries more influence than power expressed through dominance. To live with quiet strength, you must embrace discomfort. You can't stay composed in chaos if you've never trained yourself to handle it. Face challenges willingly. Do hard things that test your patience and emotional endurance. Each time you remain centered under pressure, you grow more stable. You learn to rely on yourself. That unshakable calm is what makes quiet strength so powerful. It can't be easily disturbed. Detach from the need to explain yourself. You don't owe everyone an explanation for your choices. The desire to over-explain comes from insecurity. When you trust yourself, your actions can speak for you. Not every decision needs approval, and not every thought needs to be shared. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It means you're selective about where you spend your energy. Gratitude strengthens quiet power. When you focus on what's working instead of what's missing, you develop mental peace. Gratitude grounds you in the present and helps you stay calm when things go wrong. It shifts your attention from external noise to internal stability. People who practice gratitude rarely chase attention because they already feel fulfilled from within. Learn to be comfortable being misunderstood. When you live with quiet confidence, some people won't understand your calmness. They'll mistake it for indifference or pride. That's fine. You don't need to correct every misconception. The more you try to defend yourself, the more energy you waste. Stay true to your intentions and let time reveal your character. Silence has a way of proving what words cannot. Quiet strength requires emotional boundaries. You can care deeply without absorbing everyone else's chaos. Protect your peace by knowing what belongs to you and what doesn't. You can support others without losing yourself in their storms. That balance keeps your energy clean and your focus sharp. Another important part of inner power is self-knowledge. The better you understand your values, triggers, and purpose, the more stable you become. Self-awareness prevents emotional manipulation, because you recognize when something doesn't align with you. Quiet strength is rooted in clarity. It's hard to shake a person who knows who they are and what they stand for. Build habits that nurture your mental and emotional balance. Read often, reflect daily, exercise your body, and protect your rest. A peaceful life isn't created by accident. It's designed intentionally, through small, consistent choices. When your inner world is organized, the outer world becomes less intimidating. That order gives you strength that doesn't depend on attention. You don't have to respond to everything. Not every comment deserves an answer, and not every provocation requires a reaction. The ability to choose silence when others expect noise is a powerful form of self-mastery. You're not ignoring reality. You're choosing your battles wise. Confidence that doesn't seek attention radiates differently. It's felt through presence, not performance. You walk into a room with calm assurance because you don't need to prove anything. People feel drawn to that energy because it represents safety and certainty. When you know who you are, you don't need to compete for space. You already belong. Quiet strength is also deeply spiritual. It's the peace that comes from trusting something greater than circumstance. It's knowing that your worth is not tied to titles, possessions, or recognition. You can lose everything external and still stand tall because your foundation is internal. That kind of peace cannot be destroyed by failure or fame. Learn to move in silence until results speak for you. The world doesn't need to see your every effort. Let your growth be visible in your discipline, not your declarations. The satisfaction of personal progress is far greater than the temporary thrill of attention. When success arrives, it will carry the weight of authenticity, because it wasn't built on noise. Be intentional about the energy you project. Quiet strength isn't about being detached from life. It's about being fully engaged, without losing balance. You can be passionate without being chaotic. You can pursue goals fiercely, while staying grounded. The more centered you are, the more influence you naturally carry. When you build quiet strength, you stop reacting to every situation emotionally. You start responding thoughtfully. You stop proving, competing, and defending. You simply live by your values and let your consistency speak. People may underestimate you at first, but consistency has a way of revealing true power. The goal is not to impress, but to evolve. You're not trying to be seen. You're trying to become solid. Solid in your character, your work ethic, your mindset, and that's what lasting confidence feels like. Quiet strength gives you control over your own narrative. You don't have to chase approval, force opportunities, or manipulate outcomes. You move with faith, trusting that what's meant for you will meet your effort. That calm assurance is magnetic. It commands respect without demanding it. In a noisy world, silence is a superpower. When you build quiet strength, you don't need to shout to be heard. Your presence speaks for itself. You radiate peace, purpose, and control. You stop performing for validation and start living with intention. That's when you become unshakable, strong enough to lead, calm enough to listen, and wise enough to let your actions do the talking.
Chapter 7. Respect your boundaries and never trade them for love. There comes a point in every person's life where they have to decide whether they will live to please others or live in alignment with their own peace. Boundaries are the invisible lines that protect your dignity, your energy, and your emotional balance. Without them, you give people permission to take more than they should and leave you with less than you deserve.
Learning to respect your boundaries is not about being selfish, it's about recognizing your worth. The person who respects their boundaries communicates to the world, I value myself enough not to be mistreated. Real confidence begins the moment you stop trading your self-respect for acceptance. Most people break their own boundaries not because they don't have any, but because they fear losing love. They believe that saying no might push people away. They convince themselves that tolerance equals kindness and that silence equals peace. But over time, this behavior empties them. They start feeling resentful, exhausted, and disconnected from themselves. Love that demands the sacrifice of your peace is not love, it's control. Every time you ignore your limits to keep someone close, you teach them that your needs are negotiable. Eventually you begin to forget who you were before you started pleasing everyone else. Respecting your boundaries begins with clarity. You can't defend what you haven't defined. Take the time to understand what makes you uncomfortable, what drains your spirit, and what feels disrespectful to your values. Boundaries are not walls, they are guidelines for healthy connection. They show people how to treat you, and they show you how to protect your mental and emotional space. When you know your boundaries, you don't have to explain yourself endlessly. You communicate once with calm confidence, and then you stand by it. Love should never require the destruction of self. True connection flourishes when both people feel safe to be themselves. You don't have to shrink your voice, hide your feelings, or tolerate disrespect just to feel wanted. The right kind of love will never ask you to betray yourself. People who genuinely care for you will respect your limits without needing long explanation. They might not always agree with them, but they will understand that boundaries are a form of honesty, not rejection. You must also learn to recognize when someone repeatedly crosses your boundaries after you've made them clear. That is not miscommunication, it's disregard. People show their respect through behavior, not words. When someone values you, they adjust. When they don't, they test how much you'll tolerate. That is when you must stand firm. Every time you enforce a boundary, you strengthen your self-worth. Every time you let one slide, you teach others that your peace is optional. Many people think setting boundaries will make them lose love, but the opposite is true. Boundaries reveal who truly loves you and who only loves your compliance. The relationships that crumble when you start respecting yourself were never built on genuine care. They were built on convenience. You do not need to beg for space in someone's life. You deserve to be in places where your limits are respected, without question. Confidence in your boundaries comes from understanding that you are responsible for your own well-being. No one else will protect your energy for you. People will take as much as you allow them to. You must become your own guardian. This doesn't mean closing yourself off from others. It means being selective about who you let in. Your peace is not up for public negotiation. You cannot expect others to respect boundaries that you constantly violate yourself. If you keep saying yes when you mean no, you confuse people about how to treat you. Integrity means your actions align with your words. When you say you need space, take it. When you say something hurts you, don't laugh it off later. Consistency is what teaches people that you're serious about your standards. Setting boundaries also means learning to handle guilt. At first you'll feel uncomfortable saying no, especially if you've spent years putting others first. That guilt doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're breaking a habit of self-neglect. Sit with that discomfort and let it pass. Every time you choose peace over guilt, your confidence grows. With time, protecting your energy will feel natural, not heavy. There's a difference between generosity and self-abandonment. Giving from a place of love feels fulfilling. Giving out of obligation feels draining. When you constantly give to people who don't reciprocate, you teach yourself that your value depends on usefulness. But your worth isn't measured by how much you sacrifice. It's measured by how deeply you respect yourself. You can be kind without being a doormat. You can care for people without losing yourself in the process. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They're about controlling access to your inner peace. You can't change how people behave, but you can decide what you allow. That's your power. It's not your job to fix people, to make them understand, or to please them at your expense. Your only job is to live in a way that honors your own standards. People who belong in your life will rise to meet them. Those who don't will fade away naturally. Respecting boundaries also means respecting others. You can't demand freedom if you don't give. When you understand how valuable peace is, you stop crossing other people's limits. That mutual respect builds trust and maturity in every relationship. Strong people create strong boundaries, and strong relationships are built between people who honor them. The fear of being alone often keeps people from enforcing their boundaries. They worry that if they stand firm, they'll lose connections. But loneliness is not the absence of people, it's the absence of self. When you constantly bend your boundaries to fit others, you lose connection to your own identity. Solitude is better than company that costs you your peace. The right people will never make you choose between being loved and being respected. Every boundary you set is a message to yourself that says, I matter. You stop waiting for others to protect you, because you've learned to protect yourself. That's what real empowerment feels like, knowing that your value isn't dependent on how much others approve of your choices. You no longer chase validation, because you've already validated your worth by standing firm in your truth. Sometimes the hardest boundaries to set are with people you love most. It's difficult because emotions blur logic. You want to keep peace. You want to make them happy. And you convince yourself that bending a little more will save the relationship. But every time you betray your boundaries for love, the relationship weakens. Real love doesn't thrive on submission. It thrives on honesty and mutual respect. If someone truly cares for you, they will want you to feel safe, not small. You also have to recognize that not everyone will understand your growth. When you start setting boundaries, some people will call you cold, distant, or selfish. Don't take those reactions personally. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries will feel uncomfortable when you develop them. That's normal. Your growth challenges their expectations. Stay firm anyway. Growth requires you to outgrow people who prefer your weaker version. Respecting boundaries is also about managing your time and attention. Not everyone deserves constant access to you. Some conversations drain your energy, and some situations pull you backward. Protect your time like it's your most valuable resource, because it is. You can always make more money, but you can't reclaim lost energy. Choose where you invest it wisely. To maintain your boundaries, you must practice self-awareness. Notice when you start feeling anxious, drained, or resentful. Those emotions are clues that a boundary has been crossed. Don't ignore them. Address them calmly and directly. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes to catch boundary violations early, before they become emotional exhaustion. Another part of building strong boundaries is accepting that not everyone will like you. You can't please everyone and protect yourself at the same time. Some people will misunderstand your intentions, and that's okay. Your goal is not universal approval. It's personal peace. Confidence is being okay with not being liked by everyone as long as you are true to yourself. Boundaries are a reflection of self-trust. When you respect your own limits, you send yourself a message that your comfort and emotional health matter. You stop waiting for someone else to treat you well because you've already started treating yourself with respect. That inner trust becomes the foundation for all your relationships. To live with strong boundaries, you must also communicate them clearly. Silence breeds confusion. Don't expect others to guess what you need. Express it with calm assertiveness. Say what behavior you will accept and what you won't. When people know your limits, they can choose how to respond. Those who respect you will adjust. Those who don't are simply showing you their true nature. You'll notice that when you respect your boundaries, your confidence grows naturally. You start walking taller, speaking clearer, and living with more peace. You stop feeling obligated to explain your choices. You stop apologizing for protecting your well-being. You start realizing that self-respect feels far better than being liked by everyone. Boundaries also allow love to be real. Without them, love becomes dependency and fear. With them, love becomes freedom and trust. Two people with strong boundaries don't need to control each other. They support each other's individuality. That's how healthy love feels. Peaceful, not chaotic. You deserve relationships where honesty feels safe, where respect is mutual, and where your boundaries are valued without question. The people who truly care for you won't walk away when you set limits. They'll walk closer because they feel your self-respect. Never trade your peace for attention or affection. The love that costs you your dignity is too expensive. Every time you protect your boundaries, you honor your worth. You show the world that you're not afraid to walk away from anything that asks you to betray yourself. That's not coldness. That's maturity. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to demand respect. You are allowed to be loved for who you are, not for how much of yourself you're willing to give up. Boundaries are not barriers. They are bridges to healthier connection. When you live with them, you attract relationships that match your strength and peace. The most powerful kind of confidence is built on quiet self-respect. When you respect your boundaries and refuse to trade them for love, you stop begging for what you can give yourself. Safety, stability, and dignity. That's dangerous confidence, not arrogance, not pride, but the calm assurance that no matter who stays or leaves, you will always have your own back.
Chapter 8. Turn self-doubt into proof that you are growing. Self-doubt has a way of sneaking in when you're stepping into something new. It whispers that you're not ready, not qualified, not good enough. It tells you to wait until you feel confident before you act. But the truth is, confidence doesn't come first, courage does. The moment you start doing something that stretches you beyond what you've done before, that uneasy feeling appears. You start questioning your ability, your timing, your value. That discomfort is not a sign of weakness. It's proof that you're evolving. Growth always feels awkward because it demands that you leave behind what's familiar. When you doubt yourself, what's really happening is your brain trying to protect you. It recognizes that you're entering uncertain territory, and uncertainty feels unsafe. Your mind prefers patterns. It trusts what it knows. So when you start doing something new, it triggers doubt as a warning, saying be careful. But you're not in danger, you're just expanding your limits. Once you understand this, you stop seeing doubt as an enemy, and start treating it as a signal that you're on the right track.
You're not regressing, you're stretching. Every person who has ever achieved anything meaningful has walked through seasons of doubt. The difference is that they didn't stop when it appeared. They acted in spite of it. They understood that self-doubt doesn't mean they can't do it. It means they're about to do something they've never done before. That's what growth looks like in real time. It's messy, uncertain, and uncomfortable, but it's also powerful, necessary, and transformative. When you start a new project, speak up for yourself, take on a new challenge, or try something that intimidates you, your mind looks for evidence from your past. It asks, have I done this before? Do I know what I'm doing? And when the answer is no, it labels that uncertainty as self-doubt. But if you can shift how you interpret that feeling, you can use it to fuel your progress. Instead of thinking, I'm not ready, you can tell yourself, I'm learning something new. That single thought changes the entire emotional experience. Growth doesn't feel like progress at first. It often feels like confusion, fear, and second guessing. That's because you're breaking old patterns that kept you comfortable. Every new level of life requires a version of you that hasn't existed yet. You can't think, act, or feel exactly as you did before and expect new results. Doubt is your inner signal that you're entering the unknown, and the unknown is where transformation lives. The key is to stop fighting your doubt and start listening to it. When it says you're not sure, don't panic. Ask yourself, what exactly am I unsure about? Maybe it's a lack of skill, a missing piece of information, or fear of judgment. When you identify the source, you can address it logically instead of emotionally. Self-awareness turns doubt into data. It gives you something to work with instead of something to run from. Most people believe they need confidence to take action, but in reality, confidence comes after consistent action. The first few steps will always feel uncertain, but once you start moving, momentum replaces fear. Each small victory rewires your brain to trust yourself more. You start building proof that you're capable. Confidence isn't built through thinking, it's built through doing. Self-doubt loses power when you stop believing that it defines you. It's simply a temporary state of mind. You can doubt yourself and still show up. You can feel uncertain and still make progress. Courage doesn't mean you're fearless. It means you act even while the fear exists. Every time you act through doubt, you teach yourself that fear doesn't control you. That lesson becomes the foundation of lasting confidence. When you begin to see doubt as part of the growth process, you stop letting it dictate your decisions. You realize it's not a stop sign, it's a checkpoint. It's asking you, are you ready to keep going even when you're unsure? Those who keep moving forward through doubt develop resilience that others never experience. They stop waiting for reassurance and start relying on persistence. Think about the times you've grown the most in life. Were they easy? Probably not. They were moments when you questioned yourself, faced uncertainty, and still kept going. You might have felt lost or unprepared, but you grew anyway. That's because growth doesn't announce itself. It disguises itself as discomfort. Self-doubt is simply the growing pain of transformation. You can't eliminate doubt completely, but you can change your relationship with it. When it shows up, instead of saying something is wrong with me, try saying something new is beginning. This reframes the experience from fear to opportunity. You start to understand that doubt is not a weakness to be erased, but a signal to be interpreted. It's your mind's way of preparing for expansion. One way to turn self-doubt into strength is to document your progress. Write down what scares you today, then revisit it later. You'll be surprised how many things that once intimidated you have become normal. That's what growth looks like. What once felt impossible becomes familiar. Keeping track of your progress gives you evidence of your growth and reminds you that every stage of discomfort has led to progress. Another way to deal with doubt is to stop comparing your journey to others. Comparison feeds insecurity because you only see people's results, not their struggles. You assume their confidence is constant when it's often practiced. Everyone battles doubt. They just learn how to keep moving despite it. The most confident people in the world still question themselves. They've just learned to manage it rather than obey it. The mind will always look for safety. It will try to convince you to avoid risk, change and discomfort. But if you only listen to that voice, you'll live in repetition. Growth requires risk, and risk requires trust. Trust yourself enough to know that even if you make mistakes, you'll learn. Every misstep teaches you how to adapt, and that adaptation builds wisdom. Self-doubt often feels like an internal argument between who you've been and who you're becoming. The old you wants familiarity. The new you wants expansion. This inner tension is part of the evolution process. The moment you stop fearing that conflict and start embracing it, you gain emotional strength. You realize that it's okay to not have it all figured out. You're learning through doing. It's also helpful to remind yourself that growth rarely feels graceful. It's not a straight line of motivation and progress. Some days you'll feel unstoppable, and other days you'll question everything. That's normal. Confidence is not about eliminating those fluctuations. It's about staying steady through them. The key is consistency. The more often you show up despite the doubt, the faster it loses control over you. You can transform doubt into motivation by focusing on preparation rather than perfection. Instead of asking, "Am I good enough?" ask, "How can I improve today?" That shift keeps you action-oriented instead of self-critical. Doubt thrives in stagnation. It weakens when you move. Every bit of progress you make, no matter how small, builds credibility with yourself. Pay attention to how you speak to yourself during moments of uncertainty. Many people let doubt turn into self-criticism, which damages their confidence. The language you use matters. Replace "I can't do this" with "I'm learning how to do this." Replace "I'm not ready" with "I'm getting stronger every step." The brain responds to repetition. What you tell yourself consistently becomes what you believe. You must also learn to take pride in effort, not just outcomes. When you tie your confidence only to success, you'll always doubt yourself when you fail. But when you value effort, failure becomes feedback, not a verdict. Every attempt teaches you something. The moment you see setbacks as lessons instead of evidence of inadequacy, you start growing faster. Surround yourself with people who encourage growth, not perfection. Being around people who normalize mistakes will remind you that self-doubt is universal. Seek those who challenge you to keep going, not those who feed your fears. Environment influences mindset. Spend time in spaces where honesty and progress are valued more than image and approval. Doubt becomes lighter when you replace expectation with curiosity. Instead of demanding certainty, become curious about what could happen. Ask yourself, "What might I learn from this?" That curiosity transforms anxiety into exploration. Life becomes less about proving yourself and more about discovering what's possible. The more challenges you face, the more comfortable you become with discomfort. Each time you push through fear, you expand your limits. What felt terrifying last year becomes routine today. That's what happens when you stop resisting growth. You evolve naturally. Self-doubt starts to feel familiar, and instead of scaring you, It starts reminding you that you're alive and learning. To turn doubt into proof of growth, you must redefine what progress feels like. It's not about constant confidence. It's about persistence. It's about getting up after each failure with a deeper understanding of yourself. It's about realizing that uncertainty is a sign that you're no longer standing still. Growth doesn't always feel good, but it always makes you stronger. You can train your mind to interpret discomfort as progress. When you feel unsure, say to yourself, "This means I'm expanding." When you feel nervous, remind yourself, "I'm stepping into something new." These small mental reframes build resilience over time. You start associating doubt with opportunity rather than danger. That's how you rewire your response to fear. It's important to understand that everyone doubts themselves at times, even the most successful people. The difference is that they've learned to keep moving despite uncertainty. They act first and trust that clarity will come after. You can do the same. Stop waiting for perfect timing or full certainty. It never arrives. The courage to begin is what creates confidence. Self-doubt fades when you consistently prove yourself wrong. Every time you accomplish something you once feared, your mind updates its story about you. It begins to see you as capable. The only way to create that evidence is through experience. You can't think your way into confidence. You have to earn it through action. Doubt also teaches humility. It keeps you open to learning and growth. Without it, you risk arrogance and stagnation. The goal isn't to eliminate doubt entirely. It's to balance it with belief. You can question your readiness while still believing in your ability to grow. That balance keeps you grounded and motivated. Over time you'll begin to appreciate doubt for what it is, a sign that you're pushing limits. People who never feel doubt are often those who never challenge themselves. They stay in familiar territory, doing what they've always done. You're different. You're choosing growth over comfort, and that choice will always come with uncertainty. But it will also come with transformation. When you reframe self-doubt as proof of growth, you stop fearing it. You start seeing it as part of becoming the person you were meant to be. It becomes a companion instead of an obstacle. The moment you realize that doubt doesn't define your potential,